With Cleveland and Columbus business owner Bobby George agreeing to plead guilty to attempted strangulation in the domestic violence case against him, people are wondering how that's different from attempted murder. So I want to break that down for you by looking at guidance from the Ohio Supreme Court and Ohio law. Because remember, Bobby George was initially accused of attempted murder, rape, kidnapping, strangulation, and felonious assault. Well, the Ohio Supreme Court put out guidance about strangulation in February of 2025, and in that guidance, it shows that throughout the course of strangulation, different levels of injury can happen, but it doesn't necessarily lead to death. After 5 to 10 seconds, for example, someone could lose consciousness if being strangled, and it can be after 1 to 3 minutes that someone could die. Now, someone could die, but they don't necessarily die. And I also want to read to you from the Ohio Revised Code, section 2903.18, which is the statute referenced for the crime that Bobby George will plead guilty to, attempted strangulation. Strangulation is defined as any act that impedes the normal breathing or circulation of the blood by applying pressure to the throat or neck or by covering the nose and mouth. We know from the indictment, which came from Special Prosecutor Jane Hanlon, that this happened June 9th, 2024, and we know from the police report that that's when George is accused of shoving a towel down the victim's neck, and while she was praying for her life, saying something to the effect of, "Oh, you think God will help you now." Now, if we look at the indictment in this case, he is specifically charged with attempted strangulation, specifically knowingly attempting to cause or create a substantial risk of physical harm by strangulation of a woman he was in a dating relationship with. Now, I want to share a little bit more information from the Ohio Supreme Court guidance about strangulation. The Ohio Supreme Court says, verbatim, reading this from the guidance, a person who has suffered a non-fatal strangulation by an intimate partner is 750% more likely to be killed by that partner. In almost every lethality assessment, strangulation is a high-risk factor for lethality. The most dangerous domestic violence offenders strangle their victims. The next step may be homicide. Now, I talked with Special Prosecutor Jane Hanlon about this case, and she told me that she worked very closely with the victim, and the victim was on board with this resolution of the case, the pleading guilty to the attempted strangulation. Jane Hanlon also told me that if the victim was not on board, she would not have accepted this plea agreement. Now, George's attorney, Kevin Spellacy, did not get back to me. I sent him a text message and left him a voicemail, but we do know that he told Cleveland.com George is expected to plead guilty on Thursday at his arraignment, which is out of the norm for this process. Usually that comes later, but we'll continue to follow it and let you know what happens from there. You can follow here for more legal news.